We are only a few months away from the launch of the PlayStation 5, and yet here we are, with Sony releasing all-time great exclusives in the final months of the PS4's life cycle. Ghost of Tsushima is liked by critics, but absolutely loved by fans worldwide. And it's easy to see why, as it is a game that is genuinely impossible not to like with how much it gets right. The game follows Jin, the nephew of the samurai lord of Tsushima, who finds his home island invaded and decimated by a Mongol invasion. Its developer Sucker Punch is best known for its infamous games, a solid series of superhero outings for PlayStation. But once again, Sony has allowed a developer the freedom to do something wildly outside their usual box. And we have gone from a superhero cityscape to a samurai open world, and Sucker Punch has absolutely nailed every aspect of it. With his uncle captured, his armor broken, and his spirit decimated, Jin must crawl his way back to assembling a fighting force to retake the island, relying on the few warriors that survived the massacre, along with turning himself into a mythical legend that inspires the people of Tsushima and strikes fear into the hearts of the Mongols, the Ghost. It is impossible to talk about the Ghost of Tsushima without first mentioning its aesthetic beauty. There is definitely a case for it to be titled the most beautiful game ever made, and given the past generation of releases, that is not something we say lightly. It's not just about photorealism. In fact, environments and characters in games like God of War or The Last of Us are certainly more graphically intensive, but it's the art design here, sweeping landscapes of rich, vibrant colors, and the use of sunlight, wind, and weather effects to make practically every frame of the game something you want to take a photo of. And the game lets you do just that, with one of the best photo modes we have had the pleasure of using. Rarely have we found a game where you can just constantly stand there in awe of a given landscape, and Tsushima induces this feeling roughly once every 10 minutes, depending on where your mission takes you. The beauty extends past the world, however, and into the combat. We're in awe of how enjoyable Sucker Punch has made combat in Ghost of Tsushima. A fine balance between the ultra-hard parrying and dodging of Dark Souls, but hardcore enough to be more than a simple hack and slash. A wide variety of armor sets, charms, traditional parrying and dodging, special ghost weapons, shifting combat stances, and special moves equals one of the most robust, engaging combat systems we have ever used. Everything about combat feels amazing. From the first time you win a standoff with a one-hit kill, to when you've perfected your build that allows you to win 1 versus 6 in open combat with ease. If there is one criticism you can make of Ghost of Tsushima, it's that it's rather long and can get repetitive. And yet the thing is, combat is so good that you don't really care if the 85th side mission you're doing is to go to a farm and kill 12 Ronin, because combat is just so much fun. This is exactly how we wanted our hyper-skilled samurai to feel. A whirlwind of death and destruction, rather than someone constantly trying to avoid getting one shot in more difficult games. As such, Ghost of Tsushima can feel a bit easy compared to rivals, but the power fantasy is worth the trade. The main campaign of the game is an incredibly well-written, emotionally impactful story. Jin's journey is fascinating, as we are not going down the well-worn road of should heroes kill here, but rather the story is one about honor, and a constant conflict between Jin and his uncle over the tactics they should be using to fight the Mongols. But it's not just Jin's story that's gripping. There are also a number of lengthy side quests that are equally captivating, mostly based around Jin and his allies. Even the minor stories are memorable. We found one side mission where a group of townsfolk were acting very weird, and so they didn't want our protection. We eventually discovered they had traded all their women away to the Mongols in exchange for the safety of the cowering men. You decide to rescue the women, who decide to leave the village and live on their own, and you execute the town leader as an example to the others. The entire mission was probably only killing like 8 bad guys, and yet it hit us hard. There are at least a dozen other missions where we could say, produce similar reactions, including many that nearly move you to tears. Something we won't get into so that you can experience this fresh for yourselves. As we mentioned earlier, we do think Ghost of Tsushima goes on a bit too long. The third section of the map especially feels like it's a little bit too much. And it's so desolate, you do have to wonder if it was sort of an afterthought. to where it makes the game feel like it runs out of steam by the end. We would have just shaved a little bit off the top of this game. With that said, we'll be damned if we don't want to return to that world down the road. Perhaps in DLC. A bit unlikely in this era, or almost certainly in a sequel, given the success of the game. From the trailers, we also knew Ghost of Tsushima would be pretty. But we were not expecting a combat system this engaging and fun, or a story this gripping and emotional. It is easily one of the best games of the entire PS4 generation, and given its competition, that's saying something and almost certainly deserves a mesmerizing 9 out of 10.